So tell me more about bid protesting and how should contractors work in the pre-bid process, especially to make sure that that the solicitation requirements are met.
Yeah. So I think when you think of a bid protest, typically I think your mind goes to there's been an award of the contract and it's gone to someone. And the protester in that scenario, the post-award scenario, is saying, "Hey, I should have gotten the award, not that other guy." And so one of the things I like to tell contractors is you don't want to be in that situation where you're trying to claw your way back to the award. Of course, sometimes it happens, and I like those protests. They're interesting and useful and sometimes necessary. But I think there's a lot more room for contractors to take control of the process early, and that's to work through the RFI process, the request for information, and the Q&A, question and answer process. As soon as the solicitation has been drafted, or even earlier, if you can get in the ear of the agency to help you know, the scope of work, if it's going to look something like what your company does to try and get into that process to shape it. Similarly, if you're reading the solicitation and you're seeing things in there that are confusing or that don't make sense, you're considering how do we bid this? This is ambiguous. This doesn't, this requirement is difficult for anyone to meet, let alone us. Or maybe it's set aside for only specific businesses and you don't think it should be. Or maybe it's not set aside and there are multiple small businesses, the rule of two, for instance, that would be able to bid on it. All of these different considerations happen before the contract is ever awarded. And there are a whole litany of different types of bid protests that you can file at that stage and actions you can take even before filing a bid protest that are much cheaper and in some cases even more effective to try and limit your risk when you make the bid, to make sure that you're going to meet the requirements, to make sure that you are going to have a chance at award ultimately. I mean, that's the thing that contractors care about the most. And the great thing about the pre-bid protest is that compared to the post-award protest, pre-bid, there's not a winner announced yet, right? So in a lot of cases, the post-award process is very contentious. And what that means is that there's two people that you need to fight against to get a win in the protest. The winner of the contract, or if it's a multiple award contract, potentially multiple winners, as well as the government, who is likely to try and defend their award decision. So in the pre-award context, you're just trying to help shape the solicitation to make it fair for everyone. And in fact, other contractors might agree with the questions that you're raising. And the government might agree, and then they might make the changes without even having to file a protest. So I think it's really important to be very engaged. Before the solicitation, but definitely as soon as the solicitation is available, you need to early on think about if there are any problems there that you can potentially work on to solve with the government. And it's everyone sort of coming together shoulder to shoulder. Hey, let's make this a little bit clearer. Let's make sure that this is properly set aside. And that can make for a happier, more competitive, and better procurement overall.